Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video we'll be talking about a lot of stuff. So we have a very chaotic weather pattern. We obviously have a nor'easter that is kind of developing right now across the central United States, delivering snow currently across Missouri, Illinois, Indiana. This will move on into the northeast and dump up to a foot of snow. We have a large system making its way in onto the western United States, which will give birth to this absolute monster system midweek. Early week, Monday and Tuesday, and that will also bring very heavy rain, especially for January, extremely heavy snow in some areas, and potentially a risk for severe weather like one we haven't seen in a pretty long time. So a lot of concerns, a lot of chaos. Folks, this is going to have a lot of impacts on people and on pretty much everything that revolves around, that gets affected by weather, which is everything. So let's start off by looking at the National Weather Service map. Notice a lot of areas of advisories, storm warnings. Again, this is that big system that's moving in. It's currently hitting the northwest and southwestern United States. In general, just the west. We do have winter storm watches out ahead of it across Nebraska, Kansas, Arizona, New Mexico. We have a winter storm warnings, watches, and advisories across the northeast to do with that nor'easter that we're seeing. Notice across Virginia, Maryland, especially the areas that are higher elevated. This thing will be dropping quite a bit of snow. If you take a look at their forecast, they have, I thought they'd show their snowfall amounts there. I guess not. Let me just click on a random location there in extreme northern Virginia, and you can see wintry mix, but with that, don't be completely deceived. There could be some pretty heavy snowfall amounts there. And yeah, that's simply moisture loaded, but again, following in the footsteps of that one, we have yet another massive one, and behind this one, this big one, we'll have another one. So there's just, it was really chaotic, and I can't even keep up with my words because I'm trying to squeeze this video in as with the little time I have with as much information as possible. So yes, unfortunately, I'll kind of have to talk fast. Do note, right now, this system, this first one, the nor'easter, it is developing already. It's dropping snow, not horrible amounts of snow, or should I say copious amounts of snow. It did drop a few inches in Kansas, a little bit in Arkansas, Missouri, but it will drop quite a bit of more snow across the northeast, maybe into Indiana, Illinois. A northern piece of this system, if you will, is going to be kind of meandering across Minnesota, the upper areas here, dropping a bit more snow there of fluffier nature. But notice this thing really takes off across the northeast. Now it doesn't develop into a monster. It's not going to have a super centered area of circulation, but it's going to be moisture loaded. Look at all that snow and all that rain in the southern areas. This thing could definitely jump up to a foot of snow across certain cities, including maybe even Boston, Connecticut, Rhode Island. You're kind of right on that rain snow line. If you guys end up saying all snow, this could absolutely turn it into a very heavy snowmaker. Definitely the biggest one in more than, I would say, 2 years. Last year, I don't think there was really anything like this across these areas. Across Connecticut, Rhode Island, upstate New England, a little bit less snow as this thing is further away from you guys, and you won't have as much moisture. Do note though, this thing does kind of hang around Sunday, Monday, and by the time it's completely gone, according to the GFS, there could be quite a bit of snow. Again, 9, 10, 12 inches, depending on where exactly you live. For the more detailed snowfall amounts, I want to go here and show you the official National Weather Service forecast, and I'll zoom in on the northeastern United States. So this is what it shows in the next 48 hours. Pretty much by the time this system's done, late Sunday, early Monday, you could see big cities like New York City, officially it's 2 inches. Whether or not that will happen, it remains to be seen. I feel like there may be at one point, maybe 2 inches laying on the ground, but by the time this thing is done with all that rain, the 2 inches will probably be more of like a half an inch of very heavy wet slush. Further up north, you can see Boston even kind of getting in on that rain snow line. Maybe not. That's been kind of moving up for the past few model runs more recently. Yesterday, it was kind of still more in that snow area, not today. Notice upper New England, say upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, seeing a good, healthy amount of snow. By no means a massive system, this one here, right, in terms of the snowfall amounts. I mean, this isn't anything historic by any means for the Northeast, but it's definitely a good dumping of snow, especially given the fact it hasn't happened in a while. So that is the GFS. I'm not going to talk more about that system because this next one that we have is really one that's going to be a lot more bigger and a lot more stuff to do with it. So notice it comes in, sweeps in from the northwest, a lot of moisture to do kind of already with it. There could be up to a foot and a half, if not more, across the Sierra Nevada, into Utah, Idaho, Wyoming. All that snow will be spreading through, notice, into Saturday and Sunday. That will be dropping, again, quite a bit of snow. It starts picking up moisture as early on as already in New Mexico, Arizona. You can see there could be some snow, and already, again, infiltrating moisture from the Gulf of Mexico, resulting the system to strengthen very rapidly. By Monday, Monday midday into late day, this thing is already exploding into a monster. You can see it's already expanding anywhere from even southern Canada with its snowfall all the way down to severe thunderstorms across the south. And this thing really takes just takes up a ton of moisture. It's like almost kind of trying to compensate for all the other systems that didn't take advantage of the Gulf of Mexico moisture and using that. Notice there could be some very heavy snow across, kind of with this FGen frontogenesis band, deformation band that may form on the backside of the system, and that would affect Oklahoma, Kansas City, obviously Missouri, Iowa. Quite a bit of heavy snow out ahead of it, but again, this thing will be tracking way further east of way further west of the same areas that will be picking up snow in the next few hours across the Northeast, so that will cause some flooding concerns because look at this amount of moisture. It's significant, and notice that it kind of slows down and strengthens and pivots, and again, you can see cities like Chicago, Detroit, initially start seeing some snow, may go through some mixing, and depending on this exact track, as it is still a little bit far out, cities like Chicago, Milwaukee, maybe even northern Indiana could pick up quite a bit of very heavy wet and soggy snow from this. And notice that this thing moves into the Northeast with tons of moisture, tons of rain. So that obviously adds to that flooding concern. And by the time this thing is done, you could see that the snowfall footprint it lays down is pretty impressive, not only across the Midwest, but also across the West with all this mountain snow. And of course, the total accumulated precipitation in terms of the rain, very heavy rain, especially across the South. But again, on top of the rain that's already fallen across the Northeast, it's definitely going to be concerning. And just to show you that in the future, in the long range, it doesn't look like things will slow down at all. We have yet another system on Thursday already developing and dropping very heavy snow across very similar areas. Again, maybe not as connected towards the moisture from the south, so there won't be as much snowfall, as much of a concern for severe weather across the south. Still definitely some. You can see this thing rips into the kind of the Canadian area, dumping tons of snow and moving out. But then yet again, we have another one following on the heels of that before we see an absolute bitter blast of cold air moving in, potentially for the central United States. And how that unfolds remains to be seen. Look, even the GFS showing a system of snow dropping snow across Georgia, Alabama, pretty far down to the south. So I remember early on in the year when I was making my El Nino forecast, I said that was definitely a possibility, and it seems as if that's going to be the case potentially into the southeast. So that is something we will have to watch for. Let's go take a look at the European with the development of this second big system. Again, that nor'easter, this first one, I'm not going to talk more about that because, well, it's been already well addressed. And again, this second one has a lot more talking to do about. So again, it hits the mountainous west. It moves through. By Monday, it's done, and you can see it's done with the west. It's obviously just gearing up across the south. Tons of moisture just streaming north into the colder air. The cold air with this first one won't be too abundant, so that's why you will see a lot of mixing, a lot of struggling with back and forth. In some areas, we'll see snow if the precipitation rate is heavy enough at marginal temperatures. Sometimes that's all it takes. The precipitation does the cooling itself, but you can see, right? You can see mixing further up north here, snow down at the south, the rain further up north, so kind of all over the place. And I guess that what I'm trying to say is that there could be brief lulls of precipitation, kind of a period of heavy snow on Tuesday across certain areas, and then nothing, and then a little bit of melting, and then more snow. And then finally we see that stronger last phase of this system in terms of the snow really start to gear up, pick up a lot of wind, pick up a lot of intensity, some heavier snow amounts or rates, and also just look at this cold front with this system. It is so impressive, and the amount of moisture that could stream into the Northeast is just, it's almost legendary. And look at that snow, boom, gearing up across Wisconsin, Michigan, into Iowa. Tons of wind, tons of rain, maybe sleet to wintry mixed weather. And this thing, yeah, just look at this cold front, especially the amount of precipitation this thing could dump is going to be extraordinary. And as it moves into Canada, Ontario, Quebec, you guys could get absolutely slammed with some very heavy snow. Thankfully, it does weaken and move out relatively quickly, but again, just like the GFS, on the heels of that, we see yet even more snow. Then we see yet another system that the European shows, bringing snow even further south into, say, Oklahoma, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, southern Indiana, especially picking up quite a bit of snow, assuming the track stays the same, which it probably won't. But just to give you a little bit of, information on what may happen here. And following that, we see even more intense activities, especially look what happens across the west. The European just shows pretty much a stream, a river of moisture. So that is definitely something to watch for across the northwestern United States as well. So that is what we have. In terms of total accumulated precipitation, let me show you this system. So again, there's that first one, right, dropping already quite a bit of rain across areas that are pretty saturated across the northeast. Then the second one just really dumps a lot of rain. I mean, seriously, folks, this could cause some flooding from anywhere across the southeast, including all the way up to the northeast, especially on top of that heavy snowfall. And you can see it just piles on. And look what happens across the Sierra Nevada. This is kind of reminding me of what happened last year. We saw these ridiculous amounts of 11, 12, 13 inches of rain. And it looks as if that may be repeating this year, which is not surprising given the fact, well, it's an El Nino year. So that is that. We'll have to wait and see how this system exactly unfolds. But there are definitely, the models are definitely in agreement that this thing is coming. Total snowfall from the European perspective on this system. So there's that first one, right? There's that first nor'easter, a little bit of snow across Illinois, Indiana, the west. And then here's that second one. You can see dumps a decent bit of snow wherever it does fall. The axis may, there might be some amounts as much as a foot of snow. So again, definitely not the biggest system in terms of snowfall amounts, but this snow will be heavy wherever it does fall. It will be very heavy wet snow. So, 8 to 10 inches of very heavy wet snow could cause a lot of damage, and as it moves up into Canada, could really, really dump a lot of snow there as well. And then you can see the systems just keep coming. So by the end of the 10-day forecast period, a lot of areas, this is just 10 days out, folks, a lot of areas covered in snow, and especially look what happens here potentially across the west. I mean, just copious amounts of snow, measured in feet. Even some of those feet amounts could get into double digits, like 10 feet or whatnot. That's definitely not out of the question. So that is that. That is what the European model shows. I showed you the GFS model. The National Weather Service for the first one obviously has warnings out. Not for the second one across the Midwest yet. It does across the West and portions of Nebraska. You could see, say, let's click on York, Nebraska, and you can see that they have a winter storm watch here. You could assume that it calls for at least 6 inches of snow. With 3 to 6 inches, and the other key part of this thing will be the very strong winds, which could potentially cause some blizzard conditions to prompt themselves. Let's take a look at the Canadian. So this is yet another model I like to look at. It's 12. It comes out 2 times a day with the European. It's not as good as the GFS or the European, but I still like to look at it and notice it shows that second system a little differently. To be fair, it shows a little bit further south, and east. So we'll have to see. Maybe it's onto something. Though, to be honest, as much as chaos as this system will bring, what's really been helping this forecast is the consistency of the models. The GFS and European have been agreed pretty darn good consistency they have agreed on, and this track hasn't been changing too much really for the past few days. And the high res models, right, like the NAM 12KM, the newest model runs are just coming in, and the thing is they don't go out further than 80 hours. So we could look at this nor'easter, right, pretty well, but that second system, you could see the NAM is showing it, definitely a beast. We'll have to see whether or not we'll have to see how it actually does and interprets these systems, as this is as far out as we can go. And the rest of these high-res models, a lot of them just go to 60 hours, so it doesn't even show it yet. Well, obviously, as those start incorporating it, I'll begin showing you those. But again, for now, we just have we don't have that yet. We just have a longer range model, so we're kind of in that between phase of medium to short range. At the beginning, this system was more of a long range concern. Now it's definitely becoming more of a short range concern. And this just overall pattern. The nor'easter, obviously, that's occurring tonight is already a short range concern. I could show you, say, the GEFS 31 ensembles. So let's go and click on the Midwest, right? So I can't show you the whole United States. I have to click on a region here, unfortunately. But if you take a look at it, you can see that the snow swath that it delivers with this system is, obviously there are some differences, but overall relatively consistent, showing kind of a 1-2 punch. One first across the kind of more further across Nebraska, maybe the Midwest, and then the second blast maybe towards more of the Ohio Valley into Chicago, Indianapolis, maybe getting some snow if the track shifts further south, which may or may not be happening. We'll have to wait and see on that. Another thing I wanted to show you was the latest European model run that comes out at 6 o'clock. It only goes out to 90 hours, but we have it on here, and I'll show you this. So this one only goes out to, again, 90 hours, but it's the most recent one, so I want to show you that. And you can see it just begins to show this system starting to brew across the Midwest into Monday and Tuesday. And yeah, definitely a powerful beast, guys, for sure. And especially with that intensification, rapid intensification that could be going on at the backside of it with the winds and this cold front. Just really impressive stuff, guys. I'm kind of all over the place because there's just so much to cover, but I hope you got a good coverage of what may be coming. Again, the Northeast, you guys are going to be dealing with a lot of snow now into the next few days, followed by a lot of rain with this system. There's pretty much no way this system, the second one, is going to shift enough further towards the east where you guys will be seeing snow out of it, unless you live obviously in the most northern extreme areas where there will be initially a little bit of snow and then rain. But the concern is with all that rain that will fall on top of that snow and already the wet soil. The south is obviously the severe weather. The Midwest is obviously the mixture of that rain, that ice, and that snow. And in the west, of course, the mountain snow coming from this system. And in some areas, some rain. I do also want to show you the Storm Prediction Center in terms of the severe weather to give you a more detailed look on that. Okay, so I have the Storm Prediction Center pulled up right here, and you can see that for the next few days, it's just a marginal risk of severe weather, so nothing incredible with this nor'easter one. Where we really get concerned is Monday, which you could see covers a lot of these coastal cities, and then Tuesday. You can see right there, boom, a lot of Florida, Georgia, North Carolina. And again, this is almost 6 days out. So this is going to be a lot of, obviously, updating, detail monitoring that's going to happen in between that time. And I'm kind of concerned we could see even as high as a moderate to maybe get issued across some of the south with such a system, especially one that's so moisture loaded. And of course, we will also be dealing with quite a bit of heavy rain across the Northeast, which I believe, if I can find this on here, they issued a concerning flood forecast for the Northeast here with that rain, but it doesn't seem I will be able to find it here. It's one of their products, so I know that it's definitely there. Fire outlook, watch warning. Yeah, I can't seem to find it right now. But basically, it's calling for a lot of rain potentially across the Northeast, and we will have to keep an eye on that for sure with that second system. That first one shouldn't cause too much, as there hasn't been that much activity, and again, it's going to be quickly moving away. And of course, I've been saying this for a little bit now, especially in my previous video, but this pattern is going to be continuously very active, even past this big system, this monster one. You could see in the future, Thursday, Friday, we see that next system, and we see yet another one with potentially brutal and barbaric cold air moving in behind it. That's going to be another big story. You could see a lot of the central United States and northwestern United States dealing with a lot of cold air. And in the future, the long range outlook, which takes us out to on the weathermodels.com, I could show you a feature here that takes us out using the European ensemble. It takes us out 46 days. It doesn't look like if after this cold blast of air, it doesn't look like there will be necessarily a huge area of warming. So this takes us all the way out to February 18th. So let me track this. This is the 14th, 15th. That's that cool blast of air I'm talking about. That's going to come behind these several systems. So this is already mid-January. It may look like if it's early on, but again, this thing goes out to 46 days. And notice, obviously, that cold air starts dwindling. We'll probably see a little bit of a thaw, right? Some more warm air moving in. But it never fully really takes over, this warm air, right? And in December, we obviously were surrounded just by all warm across the United States. It was a record-breaking December in terms of warmth. And you can see into February, we continue to see that cool air being very stubborn. Whether or not we'll see massive Arctic outbreaks, we'll have to see. Maybe that's what they're picking up on here. Maybe we'll just once we get locked into winter, we stay in it. But from the looks of it, it doesn't get too terribly warm for the long-range outlook. 46 days out. Yeah, we might be dealing with a lot of activity here in the next month or two. So that's basically it for me, folks. Hope you got a better idea of what may be coming. Obviously, if you have any questions or concerns, just ask them down below. Today was more kind of an overview video, just showing you what's coming. I'll be making more detailed videos in the next days about certain regions and certain areas. That's basically it for me, and I'll catch you all in the next episode. See ya. Bye.